Logere Yetiga somebody correct Ria met Nyamboni. The near level Elu Nyamyo Yao, Atom the Yogi Boko yet. A Tauku a say by a jump a say by anyone. Bochinga, some Bochinga, Saraway. To a Jaume Pillar and Hobo. Satio never fit out, Satio never fit out. Shoot down the never fit out mobile. To Tauku, Johnny, Piazon Bama. Did the gate the Wawatia go Chigan Savido teaching the Johnny Pizzo lower a Tauku say binding body as a Pizzo, Julia of my best or Eddie Tizitaga. Take ye Jiva Loki Pinave Shasha Picio Butave Shasha Bave Shasha Valley. Call it loaded solution of the Lugilo of Majiba. Edama Bavenero Benina Maunimo Era lady Yogi Mia Nale Tabu Bavedama. A good idea to the Sura Lupida, Chigan Lupida, look there, look. Go Munto, the Yosa Gaze, a Piacamiro, Parmazon Tanchiama. Tanchia on the Dalushi Lupida, or Saint Sitari, Tanchia on the Yama. Tanchendology Lulu Sitata. The gate of Mandia Shidia Sadi loved him open Sadi at Nune dying. Korean Koja Dio, Josa. Korean Koja Dio, Abisoluche. The gate of Mandia Tidu Soro Dhamma Boko go together. I think you'll let you cheat about it. Other options of yourself, Yaga. Go back, go fit in the needy body. Pretty a new yes of Yaga, forget about it. I go the Bosnian, the near Bosnian Jangu Pionida. SADHU and let me bounce up with Pionida, Sarvita them Hopahu. Teddy Chaja Yogi Mia Lupida, Lulu Sitata, Lutin and Sibido, Luta Kitchen Luciano, Suicide Nata Vido, Pio Josa Jago. A Dinya Sibido, Mangane Josa Muha, a Chini Mpipahu, a Lagapian Babahu, a Joya Mieva.
In the previous days, Sayadawgyi spoke about Sambodhi, which is noble path knowledge, or it means the person who is practicing to gain this knowledge. He talked about the causes for this person to come to be, or the supports for this type of knowledge to arise. And these are called Sambojjhanga. It doesn't occur without a cause, this Sambodhi. We don't know it through reading. It doesn't occur because we wish for it to happen. It only happens if the supporting factors, if the causes are fulfilled. So if one really wants to know true nature, sabhava Dhamma, starting from the basics, then one needs to fulfill the causes. And to understand this is very important. It's like this in the world too. Whether we're trying to gain worldly education or whether we're trying to make a living, good work is like this, that one has to fulfill the causes in order to gain what we want. So without that, there's no way to succeed without fulfilling the causes. So yogis should understand this. To meditate is to make ourselves basically true human beings. Our physical and verbal behavior should be clean. And the mind also needs to be clean. When we learn how to keep the mind clean, then we are able to keep our mind humane. And further, to really know the things that are talked about in the texts, not just from reading, but to know them experientially for oneself. When one does that, then one is distinctly different from ordinary people. This knowledge is important. So the Buddha spoke about the method in many ways, and at present, Sayadawgyi has been speaking about sambojjhanga, these factors of the Noble Path knowledge, or the causes for one who practices to gain that knowledge. And for one who wants to, Sayadawgyi has been speaking about this from both theory and practice. So if one wants to become a true human being, if one wants to be able to keep one's mind truly humane, and if one wants to develop a knowledge that is special among all types of human knowledge, then just listen carefully to the Dhamma talks, to what is being said. When one listens carefully, one will learn how to gain the benefits. And the benefits of the practice are not small, they are excellent.
Buddha Tadana Nepere Buddha Yin Chemu at Taiwan Nema Ditriptan Diaha a Yichi Zolo to Lutama Shivara Sabata Purema Hinsura Shivare Hiha Loate Anganda Mabauzuchi Sada Pushishiva the Lord Angandalite Viera a Lord of Libody Sali Payare the Hindi Mazuluchi and Samabadi here Pushishiva Talunga a Lord of Sali Telepi Zuluchi Salute Yada Sita take me Seta the Tibeta Hale Lugoa Chigan Zabiro Piezongo Yamboli Sane to what they do, they yepa what they do. But what Piezo Musura to Mabalushi, Mabi to Bayama, Yivetama, Edalo Yichi. Today I put Yichizum Kisatia, Hodon, the Pyoga. Today I put Yichizum Kisatia, Chet Legend Shivara. De Malone Shifu, local law. Ne Koreloa, Kozamaya Pisiti Guna Pale, you let me out. We pay well to let me out, local law. Don't change my law, Lucia Chilichi. Adekale, Nadekale, Nale, Nidekale, Durekale, do it like Sagapio, pure like body as a Lulu. Change Mama, Time Shout, Change Shop. အချိန်မီဖြစ်ရမှာအရွယ်ကောင်းလုံးကျမ်းမာလို့စစရဆင်ပြေတော့အချိန်မီချိန်မှဖြစ်ရမှာအဲ့ဒီအင်္ဂါနဲ့ညီညွတ်လို့ရှိရင်အရေးကြီးဆုံးကိစ္စတွေမှာပါတယ်လေးအကျိုးရများတယ်တဲ့စိတ်တည်တန်ရှင်းတယ်ဆိုတာနဲတဲ့အကျိုးမှမဟုတ်ဖ ೇನೆ ဒီဟာလူရင်းကြဆုံးပဲအဲ့ဒါလိုအချက်၄ချက်နဲ့ပြည့်စုံတဲ့အရာဆိုလို့ရှိရင်လူတိုင်းအဖို့အရေးကြီးဆုံးကိစ္စတွေမှာပါသွားပါတယ်။ဒါလို့ဒီသတိပဋ္ဌာန်တရားကိုအလေးထားပြီးတော့ပြောနေရပါတယ်။စာထဲမှာဆိုတာကတော့သတိပဋ္ဌာန်တရား၄ပါးကိုတော်တော်လေးပြည့်ပြည့်စုံစုံဖြစ်ပွားစီပြီးရင်ပုဇဉ်9ပါးလည်းပဲအလိုလိုဖြစ်ပွားစီပြီးသားဖြစ်တယ်လို့ဒီလိုဟောထားပါတယ်ဒီတော့အခုပြောနေတဲ့ပုဇဉ်9ပါးကိုယ်တဏ္ဍမှာပြည့်စုံစေခြင်းလို့ရှိရင်ဒီသတိပဋ္ဌာန်တရားအရေးကြီးဆုံးပဲကိုယ်မူရာတွေပေါ်တိုင်းမပြတ်မလားဆွေးမြဲစွာရှိရမှာခံစားဝေဒနာတွေပေါ်တိုင်းမပြတ်မလားဆွေးမြဲစွာရှိမှရမှာစိတ်ကူးစဉ်းစားကြံစည်မှုတွေပေါ်တိုင်းမပြတ်မလားဆွေးမြဲစွာရှိမှရမှာသဘောထွေးရအမူအရာတွေသဘောတရားတွေပေါ်တိုင်းပေါ်လိစစ်စစ်ပြအမြဲတမ်းဆွေးမြဲစွာရှိမှရမှာအချုပ်ကတော့ကိုယ်ရဲ့ထင်ရှားပေါ်တဲ့ဟာတွေကိုသူထင်ရှားခဲ့မှာဘလို့တမှတ်ရမှာကြီးပဲသူကတော့လက်ကမနေရဘူးတမအဲ့ဒါသိအရေးကြီးပါတယ်အနုပဿနာဆိုတာအနုဆိုတာကထက်ခါတလဲလဲတဲ့ပဿနာကရှုမြင်တာပေါ့ရှုသိတာပေါ့လေရှုသိခြင်းရှုသိတော့ဉာဏ်ပေါ့လေအဲ့ဒီဉာဏ်ပိုင်ရှင်ကိုအနုပစီလို့ခေါ်ပါတယ်တော့
In the realm of the Buddha's teachings, in the realm of Buddhist culture, Satipatthana is the most important thing. In food, the foods we eat, there are curries, and without salt, these curries do not taste good. So we have to put in some salt. We have to put in salt. A curry without salt, without any salt, is flavorless. But with it, it is tasty. So to make our human life complete, Satipatthana is needed in the way that salt is needed in food. Without Satipatthana, our life isn't complete. And this work of Satipatthana is the most important task a human being can do. Things which are extremely important for us to do all have four characteristics. The first is that it must be done. Satipatthana is a task that must be done. And secondly, it is a task that must be done by ourselves. We can't buy something and obtain it. We can't do it by proxy. No one else can do it for us. We have to do it by ourselves. Third, it has to be done on time and in time. It has to be done regularly, without stopping and starting, without stopping to talk, without stopping to gaze. And it has to be done in time, which means it has to be done when we are still young enough and healthy enough to do this work. And the fourth factor, the fourth quality of this task of Satipatthana and tasks which are extremely important is that it brings great benefits. And just the first benefit brought by the practice is purity of mind. And this is really the essence of all things beneficial brought by the practice. So, So in every task, everything that is important for a human being to do has these 4 characteristics. And Satipatthana practice also has these 4 characteristics. So it is extremely important for us to do, and this is why Sayadawgyi is emphasizing the task of Satipatthana. And it's said that in the text that after developing the Satipatthana, that the 7 factors of enlightenment, the 7 bojjhangas, are automatically developed, are automatically fulfilled. So in order to develop the 7 factors called the bojjhangas, whenever there's kaya, matter, arising, one has to note it every single time. Every single time there's a feeling, good, bad, neutral, one has to observe it. Every time there's an act of consciousness, thinking, imagining, planning, and so on, every time that arises, one has to note it, observe it. Every time there are general actions, general behaviors, dhammas that arise, one has to observe them. One has to observe these 4 without a break whenever they arise. Whatever arises, whatever becomes evident, we have to observe it. And this is what is meant by the word Anupassana. The prefix anu means repeatedly. So, and pasana means observation or knowing. So one has to repeatedly observe and know. There has to be this repeated observing and knowing. And one who possesses this type of knowledge is called Anupassana.
Anupassana aya pamantata jiyame shuyame so shu kin phiyame so be ma ba le so da ba le kaye lo so tha ba de ko yu apaung ma de edi ko yu apaung ka ma po thi da le shi de po bi ma lo ma thin sha da le shi de di da thin sha sha po la de kaya bhav ma da ma pi tha de ha de sight man ne lo ma ya bu da thin sha po ya ko mu ya thin sha po de kaya bhav ma ma thin sha de ha tha lai edi kaya ha po bi lo pyauk twa de ma mye de thabo ma mye da so yin thi da ba be thi da so ma kaung de thabo tu thabo tai thi phit de thabo ma tint de ma phwe ya de thabo lo Myat Swa Phaya ka tu ye ko si thabo la khana le de le pya tha ba tu ma shi de ma kaung gung ni le pya tha ba ya de lo ma mye sin ye thabo ma tint de yuk kaya bhav ma thin sha po de yuk kaya bhav ma Anupassana phamantata shu ya me be lo shu ya ma le so do kaya Anupassana kaya lo shu ya me edi yuk kaya de de ma pura po ye pure kaya po pure po e da po yin e de po tauk na po tauk ne po tin na po tin ne so da po le shu ni le ba Myat Swa Phaya pya tha ba le Dhamma po dai thin sha po dai so kaya bhav ma kaya lo amye da shu ya ma pu mu thin sha po dai ho ma pu de lo phamantata shu ya ma ba da ko kayika Anupassana lo khaw ba de edi pai shin ko kaya Anupassana lo khaw ba de Dhamma ha ba baအဲ့တော့Anupassanaဖြစ်အောင်ဘာလို့ရမလဲပမတ္တရှုမှုရဲ့အထည်ကိုတွေကဘာတွေလဲဆိုတာအဲ့ဒါတွေမပြည့်စုံဘဲနဲ့တော့ဘယ်နည်းနဲ့မှAnupassanaဖြစ်ပါဘူးဒီတော့Anupassanaဇက်တိုက်ဖြစ်နေဖို့ရာအတွက်ရှိရမယ်အထည်ကိုတွေပေါ့လေသုံးဖို့သူသဘာဝတရားတွေအဲ့ဒါတွေလည်းMyat Swa Phayaဖြည့်ဆွတ်ဟောထားပါတယ်
what is the essence of Anupassana? Where should this Anupassana be done? It is said, kaye. The observation should be done on the group of matter, rupa kaya. Some rupa kaya, some matter has not yet arisen, and some matter is not easy to see. It is not evident. So what type of rupa kaya, what type of matter we should observe is the one that has arisen and is evident. So we don't need to observe what hasn't arisen. We don't need to observe what we can't see clearly, what is not evident. So, and this kaya, this has the nature of arising and then passing away. To say it passes away means that it dies. If it dies, this is no good. This is not satisfactory. And it does this by itself, on its own. It's just process. And it is not elegant or beautiful. So these are the four qualities the Buddha said that kaya has. This kaya, which has four qualities, one has to observe it. So how does one observe it? One observes it as it is, as kaya. So if hot matter, hot kaya arises, we observe it as hot. If cold kaya arises, we observe it as cold. If tightness arises, we observe it as tightness. If stiffness arises, we observe it as stiffness. So every arising kaya, matter, has to be observed repeatedly. So in this way, this observation like this is called Anupassana. And the person who observes in this way is called Anupassi. So what is the essence, or what is the substance of this Anupassana? So this essence, the substance of it has to be complete in order for Anupassana to occur. Its substance has to be there. So the Buddha mentioned this. He talked about this.
Tisha Borendo Kaya Bomavoli Sisemapia Pamadata Shu Sura Kuriya Shivama Asaimu Shivama Eri Asaimu Leve Yo Ye Asayo Namiabu Isaji Lolo Miabu Nuja Tejamu Pipene Silly Nikalumiabu The Mamets of Yaga Ata Pilu Sotavare Ata Pi Kilitare Chokpi Sin Hine Chokam Joksin Hine Uriya Yayamu. Then you have a Buddha Atomu Tiame Shiama, Nene Shiama, Miai Shiama, Titsayasra, Lunuka Shiama. Kumyari Porembo, my body, Edisi. Sekalika to our body, second name of the body. Anupassana pure body. Asaya. Purivia Asaya. Edi Purivia Asamuha. Bawa Nipa to our Bawa Sinane to our Lota Mofu. Body Tanshivi, Sindan Nitela, Pilota, so Edi Asamu, Chimusia, Kone Asamu. Edelu along Asamu Shiame, Chimusia, Kone Asamu Shiame. Chutia, Kumuyarido, Povaya. Edelu Asamu Shibuso Shea. A being a winner of air. စိတ်တည်ရော့ရဲဖြစ်လာတာပဲရော့ရဲဖြစ်လာလို့ရှိရင်တော့အနုပဿနာဆိုတော့လည်းပြောက်သွားတာပဲရော့ရဲကိလေသာတွေလည်းဝင်လာတာပဲဒါပဲအဲ့တော့အပူတပြင်းအစိုက်နိုင်ပါမှအနုပဿနာဖြစ်တာပါအပူတပြင်းအစိုက်နိုင်တယ်ဆိုလို့ရှိရင်စတိမှာဆိုတဲ့စတိရလည်းရှိလာတာပဲအဲ့ဒီရလည်းပဲရှိဆိုတာလည်းပဲအလွန်ကဲရှိရမှာမဟုတ်တဲ့နေရာသွားပြီးတော့တတိယတာမဟုတ်ဘူးတကယ်ကိုဘဝတန့်စင်ပြုလုပ်တဲ့နေရာမှာတတိယအမြဲတမ်းရှိနေတာဖြစ်တော့အဲ့ဒီရှိမှုဟာချင်းမှုစရာကောင်းတဲ့အရှိပဲဒါပဲပေါ်တိုင်းအာယုံစီစိတ်ကလေးကတ်သွားအောင်လို့ဘုရားပြင်းအားဆိုင်လို့ရှိရင်အဲ့ဒါမှတတိကဆွဲပြီးတော့တည်သွားတော့တာပဲတတိလည်းဖြစ်လာတော့တာပဲတစ်ချက်အားဆိုင်ရင်တစ်ချက်စားအဆက်တတိကတ်သွားတာပဲအဲ့ဒါလို့တတိမျိုးရှိပါမှအနုပဿနာဖြစ်တာပါအဲ့ဒါတော့ယောဂီကနားလည်ရပါတယ်ဓမ္မအဲ့တော့တတိဖြစ်တယ်ဆိုလို့ရှိရင်နောက်ပိုင်းကအလိုလိုဆွဲပြီးတော့တည်တဲ့နေရာမှာစိတ်ကလေးကစိုက်ကြတော့တာပါပဲတမာရီလည်းဖြစ်လာတာပါပဲမနေတော့ပါဘူးဒီနည်းနဲ့ပဲတေချာပေါ်တဲ့ကိုယ်မူရာတွေပေါ်မှာအပူရပြင်းအားဆိုင်မှုရှိသလောက်ဆွေးမြဲတဲ့တတိလည်းဖြစ်လာပြီဆိုလို့ရှိရင်စိတ်ဟာဘယ်မှမပြေတော့ဒီပုံမှာပဲစိုက်ကြနေတာပဲအဲဒီလိုစိတ်မျိုးလေးတွေတစ်ချိန်ကတစ်ချိန်အချိန်များအောင်ပြုလုပ်တာကိုအနုပဿနာလို့ခေါ်ပါတယ်အဲဒီစိတ်ကလေးတွေကြွက်ကြည့်ပေါ့ဒီအခါမျိုးမှာသူများတတ်ချင်းပြတ်ချင်းတဲ့စိတ်မပေါ်ဘူးသူများပစ္စည်းအပိုင်စီးချင်တာမပါဘူးကိုယ်မပိုင်မဆိုင်တဲ့ကာမတောင်းကြချင်တာမပါဘူးမရှိဘူးသူများလက်ညင်ညာချင်တာလည်းမရှိဘူးမွေးစေဝတောက်ရှူပြီးတော့ရံကားချင်တာလည်းမရှိဘူးစိတ်ကလေးအလိုလိုတန့်လာတာပဲဓမ္မဒါအမှန်ထင်ရှားတာပဲဓမ္မအဲ့ဒါဆိုစိတ်အစဉ်ညစ်ကြေးတွေကိုကင်းဝေးစေနိုင်တယ်ဆိုတော့မြတ်စွာဘုရားတကြောင်ဒီတော့ခီးပဲအဲ့ဒါကိုယ်မရပေါ်တိုင်းမပြတ်မလားဆွေးမဲ့ဆိုရှုပါတဲ့အနုပဿနာအများကြီးရှိနေပါတဲ့သူရဲ့အထေကိုကတော့အပူတပြင်းအားဆိုင်ပါမှအနုပဿနာဖြစ်တာတတိအများကြီးရှိပါမှအနုပဿနာဖြစ်တာဒီထဲမှာစူးစိုက်ပြီးတော့တည်နေပါမှအနုပဿနာဖြစ်တာဆိုတာပေါ့လေအဲ့ဒါနားလည်ရပါတယ်အဲ့ဒီဖြစ်တဲ့ခိုက်တမှာကိုယ်ထဲမှာပရိယုဌာဏကိလေသာတွေဖြစ်ခွင့်မရလို့စိတ်ကလေးတွေတာရှင်းတာလူစိတ်ထားတတ်တယ်လေဟာအဲ့ဒါရှိနေတာပေါ်ပစာလို့ရှိရင်အဲ့ဒီလူစိတ်ထားတတ်တဲ့ဟာလေးဆုံးရှုံးသွားတာပဲလေးစားစားရှိလို့ရှိရင်လူစိတ်ထားတတ်တဲ့စိတ်အစဉ်လေးတွေဟာပေါ့လေတစ်ချိန်ကနှစ်ချိန်အချိန်များစွာဖြစ်လာတာပဲဒါပဲအဲ့ဒါဘာဝနာခေါ်တာပဲ
So there needs to be repeated observation on every evident arising kaya, bit of matter, without a break. This repeated observation without a break. So only if one applies effort to observe the arising object will this happen, effort or virya. The mind can't be sluggish, it can't be slack, it can't be cool, casual, or late. The Buddha used the word atapi, which refers to a type of effort, courageous effort, which can dry up the kilesas with its heat. This is ardent effort. This ardent effort must be there in order for Anupassana to take place. The word to describe this effort is atisya. It means exceeding. And so not just ordinary effort. Every second of the time, we have to apply this ardent, courageous effort so that in order for Anupassana to occur. This effort doesn't make one's life low. It elevates one's life. And therefore we should practice with ardent effort. So we must have effort to observe the object. When the object arises, if one doesn't apply effort to observe it, right at that moment, the mind becomes slack, lazy. The mind becomes slack, and then the kilesas, beginning with laziness, enter the mind stream. So only if one can apply ardent effort will anupassana occur, repeated observation. If one applies ardent effort to observe the object, then the yogi will become satima. There will be sati. This is not sati that is just recalling one's past life, recalling one's home, and so on. This sati is what arises when we make the effort to get the mind to reach the object, and sati then sticks to it. So sati arises when effort is made, and the sati sticks to this object. So only if this sati arises will anupassana occur. And then, when there is sati sticking to the object, the mind falls collectedly on the object. And if in that way, when every time a physical action arises, if the mind falls on that presently arising kaya, then the mind doesn't run anywhere. So the factors of effort, sati, and concentration are all occurring. And when this mind occurs one after another, making this mind occur one after another is called anupassana. So if we consider what the mind is like at that time, the mind is simply falling collectedly on the arising object. So there's no wanting to kill, there's no thoughts about killing, there's no thought about stealing, no thought about committing adultery, and there's no thought about lying to others. There's no thought will be there about using drugs or going wild as a result. So at that time, the mind will be clean. And so the Buddha said that this is what anupassana is. And to observe every physical act, every time it arises, is anupassana. So the essence or the substance of anupassana is to apply ardent effort. Only if ardent effort is applied will anupassana occur. And because of the application of effort, sati will arise. Only if sati arises also will anupassana occur. With sati sticking to the object, the mind will fall collectedly on the object. Only if that happens will anupassana occur. So at that moment that anupassana is occurring, the mind is free of kilesas. The mind is clean. And if one is careless and doesn't apply ardent effort so that sati sticks, so that the mind becomes collected, then these benefits won't occur, and one will be losing every time one is careless. But on the other hand, if one is respectful in trying to develop anupassana, this observing mind will be created, generated, one after another, and this is called bhavana.
Eri Viriya Sati Samadhi athauku ne Komuyare Pore Poma Pamatata Anupassana di Myala Roda Be တိခါမှာဝိရိယလည်းကောင်းတတိလည်းကောင်းသမာဓိလည်းကောင်းလာတာပဲကောင်းလာပြီဆိုလို့ရှိရင်ဉာဏ်ညဆိုတာအတိဖြစ်လာတာပဲဖောင်းတာလေးမှတ်လိုက်လို့ရှိရင်တောက်တာလေးတင်းတာလေးပိန်နာမှလို့ရှိရင်ရော့သွားတယ်ငြိမ်သွားတာလေးအခြားခြားကိုယ်မူရာတွေပေါ်တယ်လေသဘောတရားတွေထင်ရှားနေတာဥရိယပြညာဘဲလောက်ရောက်သွားပြီဆိုသိရှင်းလာတာသိကိုရှင်းတယ်ဒီကုချင်းဒုက္ခရင်ကွဲနေတာတခါအသေးမောလေးတွေအစကွဲနေတာရှင်းနေတဲ့ခါလည်းသိတော့ချင်းညဆိုတာအတိတွေတဲ့ဥပဒနာအတိတွေဖြစ်လာတာဒါပုဗ္ဗဘကမဲ့ခေါ်တာအရိယမေရှေ့ပြေးအတိညာနေဖြစ်လာတာအဲ့ဒီတိတာဟာစံကျင်ညဆိုတော့လေမမကံတိတာသူပြောလူပြောနေတိတာမဟုတ်ဘူးစာပြောလူတိတာမဟုတ်ဘူးကိုယ်ရတဲ့လူကိုယ်တိုင်တိတာစံကျင်ညဆိုတော့မမကံလည်းတိတယ်ပြည့်ပြည့်စုံလည်းတိတယ်ကိုယ်တိုင်လည်းတိတယ်အဲ့လိုအည်သွေးတွေနဲ့ပြည့်စုံတာကိုစံကျင်ညခေါ်ပါတယ်မင်္ဂံပြည့်စုံကိုယ်တိုင်သိဘယ်တော့မှညှင်းလို့မရဘူးဒီမှာအဲ့လိုသိတဲ့နေရာမှာလည်းဘလုံးမထွေးကြီးမဟုတ်ဘူးတခြားစီရှုစီအာယုံကတခြားယုတ်ကတခြားနာငါတခြားဖောင်းတာလေးတွေများတစ်ခုချင်းကွဲသွားတာအစိတ်နဲ့စိတ်ကလေးတွေမှားရတာလေတခါစိတ်ကလေးတွေတစ်ခုချင်းကွဲပြီးတော့ပြက်သားသားဖြစ်နေတာမယောပါဆိုတာကွဲပြခြားနာအဲ့လိုသိလာတာအဲ့လိုသိတာလည်းပဲစာပြောလို့သိတာမဟုတ်ဘူးဆရာပြောလို့သိတာမဟုတ်ဘူးထူးခြားသိတာနားပဲအဲ့ဒါကိုမြတ်စွာဘုရားဒီမှာစကားလေးသုံးထားတယ်စံပကြနာတဲ့အဲ့ဒီညာပိုင်ရှင်ကိုစံပကြနာခေါ်တာပါပဲအဲ့ဒါသံဘောဓိဆိုတဲ့ပုံမှာကိုယ်တိုင်သိသူတဲ့တနည်းအားဖြင့်ကိုယ်တိုင်သိခြင်းညာတဲ့အဲ့ဒီသံဘောဓိခေါ်တဲ့ကိုယ်ပိုင်သိတဲ့ညာရဲ့အထောက်အကူလည်းဖြစ်သွားတာပဲကိုယ်ပိုင်သိသူရဲ့အကြောင်းလည်းပဲဖြစ်သွားတာပဲနောက်သစ္စာလေးပါးတရားတွေသိလာတော့မှာပဲဒါဘယ်သူမှညင်းလို့မရဘူးဒီမှာအဲ့ဒါသံဘောကျင်ကခေါ်တာပဲဒီမှာ
With the help of virya, sati, and samadhi, effort, mindfulness, and concentration, observing every arising physical act when it becomes evident, then anupassana arises for sure. And then one's effort, mindfulness, and concentration, virya, sati, and samadhi, will become good. Effort will become good, sati will become good, samadhi will become good. And then what occurs is called jnana. This is knowledge. So when the rising arises, one's mind falls on stiffness and one knows the stiffness, the true nature that is there, or whatever other quality is there. When the mind observes the falling, it falls on the movement or the relaxation that is happening there, and one knows that. Other physical actions that arise, one observes them and knows the true nature that is there. Especially at the stage of udyabbiya jnana, the knowledge of fast arising and passing away, one's observation becomes very clear. Even small, tiny things are very, very distinct. So this type of knowing is called jnana. This is vipassana knowledge, and it is a factor of the forerunner path, Pubbabhaga Magga. So the Buddha used the word sanjanya. This means, first of all, to know correctly, what one knows is not known in the wrong way, it's known correctly. And one doesn't just know partially, what one knows completely. Also, one knows for oneself, not through hearing it from the teacher, not from reading about it, but by oneself. Knowing correctly, knowing completely, and knowing for oneself. This type of knowledge occurs. It can't be denied. And then one comes to see this knowing and the object are different. One sees one observation after another. Sometimes one after another. The yogis see that the mind and the object are separate. So one sees clearly, and this is indicated by the prefix pa in the word sampajanya. One sees very clearly, distinctly. And one also sees in a special way that is distinctly different from what the knowledge that one gains when one hears something, or the knowledge that one gains when one reflects on something. It is a clear knowledge, and it is a distinctly special knowledge. And therefore the Buddha used the word sampajana for this knowing correctly, completely, by oneself, in a clear and special way. And sampajana is also the word for a person who has this type of knowledge. So this knowledge is this is a factor. This type of knowledge is a factor or a cause for one to know for oneself, or it is a knowledge that knows in this way. So this type of knowing is a cause or a support for sambodhi. And therefore this type of knowledge is called sambojjhanga.
Edilo teacher pore kumya woma kaya Anupassana body saya mirita biro Panditarama shumu suraha Buddha asai hule pavi swemeza shure trile shibi di boma sai jade tamari lebe shibi so lo shi samajana aya Didiဖြစ်လာတာပဲပညာစာတွေ့ကြတာပဲဒါရုပ်ပဲဒါအပူပဲအေးပဲအတောက်နဲ့တင်းတာပဲဆိုတော့လေအိဋ္ဌာသိသွားတာပဲပေါ်ပြီးတော့ပြောက်သွားတာအိဋ္ဌာလက္ခဏာလည်းသိသွားတာပဲဘယ်သူမှငြင်းလို့မရဘူးအဲလိုပညာစာသိတဲ့အပေါ်မှာမြဲတယ်ဆိုတဲ့အစွဲလည်းမရှိတော့ဘူးအိဋ္ဌာသိလို့ရှိရင်အဲ့တော့လောကီပိုင်နိုင်စွာရှိမိသောခုနဖောင်းပွေမှုအစရှိတဲ့ရုပ်ပေါ်၌အဲ့ဒါတွေပေါ်ပြီးတော့ပျောက်သွားတာလေမမြဲတာလေးတွေပေါ့လေဒါလေးမမြဲတဲ့သဘောသိတယ်မမြဲတဲ့ချင်းရသိတယ်ပိဿာဒေါမနသမရှိလို့ရှိရင်ဖြစ်ခွင့်ရှိတဲ့ခုနဝိရိယတတိသမารိสัมปชัญญะမဖြစ်ဘူးဆိုလို့ရှိရင်တော့အမတ်တမဲ့ဖြစ်သွားရင်အနုပဿနာဆိုတော့လည်းမပေါ်တော့ဘူးအဲ့ဒီလိုပေါ့အဲ့ဒီလိုခုလက်ငင်းပေါ်တဲ့ကာယခေါ်တဲ့လောကပေါ်မှာပေါ့လေအဲ့ဒီလိုရှုတိမှုမျိုးမရှိဘူးဆိုလို့ရှိရင်အဲ့ဒီမရှုမိတဲ့အာယုံပေါ်မှာတာယာဝယ်ထင်လို့ရှိရင်တာယာမှုဖြစ်နေတာပဲအဘိဓါလောဘမတာယာဝယ်ဆိုလို့ရှိရင်လည်းမကြိုက်တဲ့ဒေါသဖြစ်တာပဲဖြစ်ကုန်ရှိတာပဲပိုင်နေစွာရှုမိပြီဆိုလို့ရှိရင်ခုနအဘိဓါခေါ်တဲ့လောဘလည်းအဲ့ဒီပုံမှာမပေါ်တော့မကျေနပ်လို့စိတ်ပြည့်စိတ်ဆိုးမုန်းညိုးတဲ့ဟာလည်းမပေါ်တော့ ဘာဖြစ်လို့လဲတိနေတာကိုမသိရင်ဒါကိလေသာလာတာမရှုလင်ကိလေဝင်ဆိုတာပေါ့လေရှုလင်ကိလေစဉ်ဆိုတာကိလေသာတွေစင်ကြဲနေတာပဲတစ်ချက်မှရင်တစ်ချက်စင်ကြဲသွားတာပဲတစ်ချက်မှတစ်ချက်စင်ကြဲသွားတာပဲရှုမှမှုတစ်ခုနဲ့မရှုလို့ရှိရင်ဖြစ်ကိုရှိတဲ့ကိလေသာအစိတ်ပိုင်းတစ်ချက်မှတစ်ချက်ငြိမ့်သွားတာပဲအဲ့ဒါတရင်ကဘာဟာနာလို့လည်းခေါ်ပါတယ်ဒီမှာနေညောတာအဲ့ဒါလေးအရှိန်ကောင်းသွားတာပေါ့အရှိန်ရလာတာမှတ်တယ်အရှိန်ရလာပြီဆိုလို့ရှိရင်ကားမောင်းတဲ့အခါပေါ့လေလမ်းကလည်းတာပြီအရှိန်ကလည်းရှိလာပြီဆိုရင်အသာလေးအရှိန်လေးနဲ့မှေးလိုက်သွားရောပါဟိုအတက်ပိုင်းညာနေရောက်တဲ့အခါကျတော့သိထင်ရှားပါတယ်တော့မှာအဲ့ဒီခါမျိုးမှာတခါလွတ်သွားပြီမယ်လို့လွတ်သွားတဲ့အောင်ပေါ်မှာကိလေသာတွေဆက်မဖြစ်ဘူးအဲ့ဒါဝိက္ခမနာဝိနည်းခေါ်ပါတယ်ချက်ချင်းပေါ်လာတဲ့အောင်ပေါ်မှာကိလေသာဖြစ်ခွင့်မရအောင်ကြိုးစားတော့အရှိန်ရပြီဆိုလို့ရှိရင်ဝိက္ခမနာဝိနည်းဆိုတာကိလေသာတွေဝေးပြီးတော့တော်တော်နဲ့မဖြစ်ဘူးအဲ့ဒီအကျိုးနှမျိုးရနေတာပဲယောဂီကဖတ်မနေတယ်အဲ့ဒါအရေးကြီးဆုံးပဲဒီလောဘဒေါသကင်းတဲ့တန်ရှင်းတဲ့စိတ်ကလေးတွေအဲ့ဒါလေးကင်းဖို့အဲ့ဒါလေးကင်းပြီဆိုလို့ရှိပြီတကယ်အရှိကိုအရှိတိုင်းသိလာတာပဲအဲ့ဒါကာနိဝဆနာရဲ့အကျိုးပါပဲလည်းငယ်ပြီးတော့အခြားအာယုန်တွေပေါ်မှာလည်းမရှိဘူးလည်းငယ်ပိုင်နေစွာရှုရတဲ့အာယုန်ပေါ်မှာလောဘဒေါသကိလေသာဖြစ်ခွင့်မရသလိုအခြားအာယုန်တွေပေါ်မှာလည်းစိတ်ကူးနဲ့ကိလေသာတွေဖြစ်တော့တစ်ချက်မှတစ်ချက်ချင်းတစ်ချက်မှတစ်ချက်ချင်းပဲဒါပဲအဲလိုယူသေးပြုလုပ်တဲ့ပုဂ္ဂိုလ်တွေဆိုလို့ရှိရင်အဲ့ဒါအမျက်ထွက်နေတာပဲမယုံမသိခက်ဖို့ပြုလုပ်တဲ့ပုဂ္ဂိုလ်ကတော့အဲ့ဒီတန်ရှင်းမှုတွေဆုံးရှုံးနေတာပဲအခိုက်အတန့်ကိလေသာငြိမ့်သွားတာတော်တော်ကိလေသာဝေးကွာတဲ့ငြိမ့်သွားတာအဲ့ဒါတွေဆုံးရှုံးသွားတော့တာမယုံမသိပေါ်ဆဆလုပ်တဲ့ပုဂ္ဂိုလ်တွေကတော့အဲ့ဒါတွေအများအားဆုံးရှုံးနေတာပဲဒါတွေရအောင်လာပြီးတော့အထုတ်ပါလေအဲ့ဒါတွေမရဘူးဆိုလို့ရှိရင်တော့ကိုယ်လုပ်ငန်းမှာယောဂီကမယူသေးတာပါပြီဆိုတာပေါ့လေမစိစက်တာပါပြီယန္နာနေတာပါပြီဆိုတာတော့အဲ့ဒါတော့မသိရဘဲနဲ့ကမ္မဋ္ဌာန်းဆရာတွေကဆုံးဖြတ်လို့ရပါတယ်
Like that, when one observes every evident arising kaya or matter applying a label, labeling it as it is, when repeated observation occurs, there is ardent effort to observe the object, sati, which sticks to the object, and the mind becomes collected on the object. Therefore, sampajanya, this type of knowledge arises. Sampajanya is knowledge. One knows that this is rupa, this is hot, and one knows that this, which one observes, that it is impermanent. It arises and then passes away. One sees the characteristic of impermanence, anicca lakkhana. So, on the object which is observed, there's no belief of permanence. There's no attachment to it as permanent. So, what on this kaya that one is observing effectively, then one knows that it is impermanent, and one knows, and one knows how it arises and passes away. One knows how it is impermanent, and at that time, the abheja and domanassa, the greed and anger that would arise if we didn't observe, has no chance. If one doesn't observe the arising kaya, then anupassana doesn't arise. If there's no effort if there's no sati sticking to the object, if there's no samadhi, then what will arise regarding the kaya, the object, will be, which is in Pali, the word used was loka, this world of the physical object which has arisen. Then there won't be any knowledge. And instead, if it seems pleasurable, if it seems like a pleasant thing, a good thing, then there will be abeja, there will be wanting. And if it's not this pleasant, likable, good object, then there will be domanassa, there will be resentment, anger. And so if one observes effectively the arising kaya, then abeja doesn't have a chance to arise, this wanting. And anger, resentment, it doesn't have a chance to arise because knowledge has arisen. So it's said that not noting, not knowing, kilesas come in. They come into the mind stream. But when one notes and observes, kilesas come clean. Because of our anupassana, the mind is clean. And one by one, the kilesas are being removed in a momentary way. This is tadanga pahana. For that moment, the kilesas are being removed. And at that time, it's like driving a car on a good road with a good car. There's nothing, there's no obstacles, the road is good. Everything that we need to drive the car easily is there. So we can just go along without having to worry about the road, without having to worry about the car functioning. And this is what the practice is like. Especially at the upper stages of knowledge, this is very evident. And not only do kilesas not arise regarding the object that one has observed, but sometimes one misses an object, but kilesas still don't arise. This is because the kilesas have been distanced, and this is called vikambana vinaya. The kilesas are far removed from one's mind, so they don't even arise. They don't arise on the object that one notes, of course, but they also don't arise on the object that one misses. So these are benefits that the yogis get. They make their mind, in doing the practice, they make their minds free of greed and anger, lobha and dosa. And that cleanliness becomes so strong that the kilesas are distanced and don't have a chance to arise even if one misses. So this is the benefit of anupassana. So just as the kilesas don't arise on what one observes, they don't arise on what one misses. And every time one observes with anupassana, one gets this benefit. One who doesn't develop anupassana doesn't gain this benefit. One who doesn't take care in the practice, one who doesn't use effort. So one has to try to create anupassana, try to develop these factors that make it up. And if the yogi is not doing that, then it means that the yogi is not respectful regarding the practice. They're not working respectfully, or not working meticulously, or not working continuously, just starting and stopping. This is a conclusion that the meditation teachers can draw.
Jane, kore seite ma kaungso khansamu vedana ri pore la di tai ma. Chikusin janjimu amyomyo ri pore la shuma de ka di tai ma sita vipassana ri. Chöre thabo mu ya ri pore la di tai ma Dhamma vipassana ri pore. Koriya tati thamari pinya kore athe korea ro paya ma be di pu paw pi ro thak ku de a siat bai ne ro paya ma be da de ma pa long ma phit phu pa bho soda ga ro Tripura ya jodo de tina le pi ro yong ji ne bo ni siat san da pian pian tha pi ro long ma ya ro ba ma yong de yong san tat de ani ne ro ma ya bu ma siat ma sa ja ma piat pi ro bo ni na ne lo lo wa ro tet long lo twa bo le di tai lo lo wa ro taya ru ya bo ma lwe ba buဒီတော့ယုံကြည်မှုနဲ့ဆန္ဒပြင်းမှုမှဟောလည်းရှိပါတယ်တမမယုံကြည်အောင်ဆိုရင်ဆန္ဒကမပြင်းဘူးတကယ်ကိုယုံကြည်ရှိပြီးတော့ရလို့တဲ့ဆန္ဒသတိပဋ္ဌာန်နဲ့ဖြစ်လို့တဲ့ဆန္ဒသတိပဋ္ဌာန်ရဲ့အကျိုးတွေကိုရလို့တဲ့ဆန္ဒတွေပြင်းပြမှဒါမှခုနပြောသလိုပေါ့လူပိသားဖို့လူလိုစိတ်ဓာတ်တတ်ဖို့လူပညာရှိပြီးတော့လူထက်လူဖြစ်ဖို့ဆိုတော့ပေါ့လေအဲ့ဒီဆန္ဒတွေပြဖို့သိအရေးကြီးပါတယ်လောကီပညာတတ်ရုံနဲ့လူစင်းမဝင်သေးပါဘူးအကျင့်တွေပြည့်နေလို့ရှိရင်ပတ်စံရှိုံနဲ့လည်းလူစင်းမဝင်နိုင်သေးပါဘူးပရိသတ်များယုံနဲ့လည်းပဲလူစင်းမဝင်နိုင်သေးပါဘူးအဲ့ဒါတွေရှိပါတယ်အကျင့်ပြည့်နေလို့ရှိရင်ဘာမှလူတန်ဖို့မရှိပါဘူးဒါတို့အခြေအနေမရောက်ပြီမလို့ထိုက်တန်သူများအခြေအနေလေးနဲ့လောကီအခြေလေးနဲ့ကိုယ်တတိပ္ပံဘာဝနာတရားတွေအားထုတ်လို့ကိုကြည့်တည်တော်လေးလည်းကောင်းစိတ်တွေလည်းတည်ရင်နေမြတ်တည်ရင်အသိဉာဏ်တွေလည်းဖြစ်ပြီးဆိုလို့ရှိရင်အဲ့ဒါလိုဘဝမျိုးမှတောက်ဖို့ရှိတဲ့ဘဝဆိုတာပေါ့လေနားလည်ဖို့သိအရေးကြီးပါတယ်အခုတရားထုတ်တယ်ဆိုတာမိမိဘဝကိုဓမ္မနိအယပေါ့လေအရှင်တန်မြင့်တင်ပေးတော့တန်ဖိုးရှိအောင်ပြုလုပ်ပေးတဲ့သဘောပဲဆိုတာပေါ့လေအဲ့တော့တန်ဖိုးရှိကြလို့ရှိရင်တန်ဖိုးများပြရမယ်တတတရားရှိရမယ်ဆန္ဒပြရမယ်အခုလိုအပူရပြင်းကြိုးစားရမယ်ဒါသိအရေးကြီးပါတယ်အဲ့ဒီတိုင်းကြိုးစားနိုင်ကြပါစေလို့လေးလေးနက်နက်တိုက်တွန်းရတဲ့ဒီနေ့တရားဆုံးသတ်လိုက်ပါတယ်
So Sayadawgyi has spoken about kaya and the remaining three types of objects, Vedana, Chitta, and Dhamma. Every time Vedana or feeling arises, one has to, and is apparent, one has to observe it just as it is. Every time the mind consciousness arises, then one has to observe it. Every time there should be this repeated observation. Every general action, every Dhamma, every time it arises, there should be repeated observation. So just as there is Kaya Anupassana, so too there's Vedana Anupassana, Chitta Anupassana, Dhamma Anupassana. And for this to happen, Virya, Sati, and Samadhi, the essence of Anupassana, has to be present. So the supporting factor, these supporting factors have to be there. The benefits of one should know the benefits of satipatthana and have the desire to gain them, because then one will do the work. So if one doesn't have faith and confidence in the benefits or in the practice, then one won't do the work. It won't be easy to do the work. So, and not just faith, there should also be the desire to gain the benefits. So both faith and chanda should be there. If one's faith is half-hearted, then one won't work consistently. So this is why Sayadawgyi has been speaking about how the practice makes one a true human being. With the practice, one is able to keep one's mind and heart humane. and one is able to develop special human knowledge. So there should be the desire, the chanda, to gain these benefits. And if not, then one won't work to gain this type of special knowledge that is a special type of human knowledge. One won't work to, and then if one doesn't even try to keep one's mind clean, then it will be even worse. And if one lets one's morality become broken, then one can't even be considered a true human. So think about how it is when we do the practice. When we do the practice, our sila is good, our morality is complete. And then we are able to make our mind clean, and we are able to develop special knowledge. We should understand that this is beneficial and valuable for us. So doing this practice is for elevating our lives by means of Dhamma. So it's very valuable, and if we want something valuable, we have to put in value. We have to have faith, we have to have the chanda or desire to gain the benefits, and we have to try hard. So Sayadawgyi hopes and wishes that you may all be able to try like that. He urges you very seriously, and that is all for tonight. So